market were loaded with fat. Many of them weren't even food. Well, I knew I could do better, so I developed Mooch's Munchies, and I'm happy to be able to share them with you. Stop by our store or our website, moochesmunchies.com, and find out why we say that Mooch's Munchies are totally pawsome.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Julie got me out of the mood to do my air drums.
In studio. Yeah, she got me. I'm not in the mood either for a lot of different reasons.
God, thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
Way to go, Julie.
Yeah. That's Paul Mokeski joining me, as he does every Thursday, the 12-year NBA veteran and 20-year plus professional coach. And we have a lot of coaching questions to get to with Big Mo. Mr. Paul Mokeski. Mo, how's it going, my friend?
It's going good. Good Thursday. Good to be with you guys here in studio.
So as you drive in, I'm curious, like, what do you make of some of these phone calls I get?
Well, the ones that I listen to, some are, a little decent back and forth, but most are, it's so frustrating. And then when I hear you get frustrated, for the most time, I just turn back on the music. Because, it's like, you used to say preaching to the choir, but it's like trying to reason with someone that, whenever you ask him to answer the question, it's like politicians have been forever, right? My dad, rest his soul, used to say politics is a racket. And it is. So it's a skill, right? So, I could say, I was the best player in the NBA in the 80s. And then you would ask me, well, Paul, why would you say that? And I would say, well, John Koncak wasn't very good, and he was making, it has nothing to do with the question that was brought up.
It's really mesmerizing, and, we get the MAGA callers that call in, and, one MAGA caller who called in who thinks I run the Occupy Democrats page, apparently, says I was blocked by Occupy.
Why did you block her?
That's pretty dumb to begin with anyway. And, she asked me a question about what Joe Biden has accomplished, and I gave her a couple examples, and totally over her head, doesn't respond to what I said. I answer her question, and I'm specific, and I actually give specific policies, totally over her head. And then she says everything I said is a lie, and then I respond by saying, okay, fine, even though it's not. Name me something. And then she goes, it's a lie when you say Joe Biden has empathy.
Yeah, because she goes to empathy because all the other things you talked about were specific.
Substance, yeah.
Recorded things, the bills that he's passed and stuff like that. But that, you can't attack that. So you go to empathy, which is, that's all random anyway.
Right.
I could say you're not empathetic to me, but maybe you're empathetic to everybody, but that's why.
And then when she loses that argument, then she makes the claim that because Joe Biden is the leader of the free world, which is a saying, Joe Biden's the president of the United States, that somehow he's responsible for all failed policy across the world, and he's responsible for inflation across the world and gas prices, which obviously is a very stupid thing to say.
Well, and it happened like gas prices have nothing to do with the presidency.
No.
So that was
the end of that phone call.
Yeah, arguing was stupid is stupid.
So I blocked her as well.
I mean, like we talk all the time, Brian. We're friends, and
Are we? I didn't know that.
We're good friends. Just because I'm not signing my card for you doesn't mean I'm not your friend.
Mo is a good friend, yes, even though he won't sign my card.
And you know what's crazy? People think that that's true, too.
Well, you flipped me off in a picture.
You deserved it.
And then the one card you did sign for me, it said to Brain, B-R-A-I-N, and I know that wasn't by accident.
That was my dyslexia coming in, truly.
Oh,
truly.
Okay. I thought that was on purpose because it was funny.
No, I would have been funny.
I still have that card, by the way.
But, I mean, I'm trying to watch the DeSantis Haley, debate, but it's not a debate. Now, and I keep bringing my dad back into this because, back in the day,
right.
In the 60s, and, politics is a racket, and he was we were lower middle class family, and, and they used to call, like, attacking the other political party or other opponent dirty politics. That's what they used to call it. Don't go down. Don't go dirty on them. Now it's just natural. So the debate that I was trying to watch turned into one person attacking the other person, not answering the question. And it's like, this is a waste of time. And what really stood out was when they, talk about woke states. Florida is not a woke state. And then she said South Carolina is not a woke state. When the description of woke in the dictionary, which apparently Florida is not letting be in schools anymore, according to your other caller, is to be conscious of discrimination in the society. Isn't that good?
You would think that it's good, but that was one MAGA caller, and then another MAGA caller tried to make the case, and we have some good callers too. Tried to make the case that Joe Biden's great granddaughter, doesn't even want to talk about it. Well, the reason why he didn't want to talk about it is because there was stuff in the courts. He's not able to talk about it. Could hurt the case. So obviously that caller was completely ignorant to that. And then talking about empathy brings up how he's a Ron DeSantis supporter. And I said, big shocker. So I asked him a question about the migrants and notice how he doesn't want to answer that. So I can have.
And on the debate that I was kind of trying to watch, and it was hard to watch, DeSantis was proud about how many illegal aliens are not in his state and all this. And my thought is she should have said, because you fly them and pay money, taxpayer money, to fly them to other states. That's why.
Of course. Yeah, it's frustrating. There's a certain part of, there's plenty of Republicans out there that I can have good conversations with. Doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. And I do it almost every day. And then there is a part of the Trump base where you just can't get through to them. They won't answer questions directly. They don't have any facts. They throw things at a wall and hope they stick. You can't have conversations with those people. You just can't. Anyway, since you have been a professional basketball coach for decades.
One of the best ever, according to some people.
You're the best CBA coach, in my opinion. You were the Hartford Hellcats. But you've been doing this for a long time, Mo. And obviously, Bill Belichick is a name, the household name for decades. And what he accomplished in New England is pretty insurmountable, even though he did have Tom Brady and some pretty good receivers and pretty good defense. But the guy won. What do you make of this announcement today that it was a mutual thing that him and Kraft that he would step down?
Yeah, first of all, Phil Jackson had Michael Jordan, and then Kobe Bryant, and Pat Riley had Magic Johnson and Kareem. So saying that he had great players, that's great.
You still got to get it done.
You still got to get it done and get them to win. But it was surprising to me that. Because, like you said, I've been around a long time. And what usually happens in that situation with someone of that stature, who is arguably one of the best football coaches ever in the NFL, I mean, he's got the championships to prove it, that he's stepping away cleanly and not being moved up in the organization, because he and Kraft are friends, I would take it. And usually what happens is, okay, I think he's 71, 72. I'm done coaching. Let me move up into the front office and use my years of experience there to help whoever comes in. But when he steps away, like I think he stepped away, to me that means he's looking for another job, and he's probably going to coach again.
Where do you think he lands?
I would think here in Las Vegas, except for what happened with the last coach who was under Belichick. So, obviously the Chargers are there. I think there's 7 teams open now. I think 8 now. And but I think he's only going to take something that's going to really be successful. He can't build a program for the next 5 years. He's got to have the makings of what can be successful, both talent-wise and financially-wise. Because you can have some talent and be able to build on it, but you're not going to build on it unless the owner pays the money. I mean, the Warriors, when they were winning the championships, they were the highest salary in the leagues. That's, it's not the be-all, do-all, but it is a big part of an owner being willing to spend money over the salary cap. That costs double. So he's going to go in a situation like that, and I'm not sure where that is right now.
Well, let's talk Raiders, because there's technically a vacancy. I think one of two things are going to happen. And I think the latter. I do think that Pierce sticks around, and I think that Mark Davis does sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal, or it's got to be Jim Harbaugh. It's got to be one or the other. Now, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh would be interested in this job. I would think he probably would. Maybe the Chargers, I don't know. But I think it's going to be one or the other. I can't imagine that Mark Davis, based on the past history of not keeping Bisaccia around, unless it's Jim Harbaugh, which I think everybody would probably agree would be a slam dunk hire, I think Pierce
Not
stays.
necessarily.
You don't think so?
Here's the thing. So at the end of the year, Pierce has really grabbed the interest of the fans, chanting his name, and the players in the locker room that are saying he's our kind of guy. He's the Raider way. He's who we want to play for.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it very difficult to bring in a Harbaugh who, if they bring him in, Pierce is gone. He's not going to keep him around. Everybody's gone. All the assistant coaches, all those people are gone now, and you're bringing in a college coach who's been successful in pros before, but he's going to bring in his whole new staff. He's going to have a whole new way of doing things, and that's going to shake up the core of the players that are obviously pulling for Pierce to be the next coach. So I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think you have to take that into a court. So you go with Pierce, who's inexperienced, did pretty well. Players love him, fans love him, and give him a couple years, like you said, and see where we go. Or you bring Harbaugh in, and everything that he built, Pierce built in the last 3 months, throw it out the window. Throw all your personnel out the window because they're not, some of them will buy in, some won't, and pretty much start over. And you have to start over anyway because you need a quarterback.
So you agree with me that I think 95% Pierce sticks around?
I don't think that. I don't think those odds, but I think it's a good move for the Raiders. But I've been in professional sports coaching for a long time. Anything can happen.
Sure.
And owners can do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
And they can not listen to a lot of people and do what they want. Or listen to the wrong people. So, anything can happen.
Well, I think 95% Pierce is they're going to sign him to a 3-year deal.
So if that happens, then Harbaugh will use the Raiders as a leverage for the Chargers and
yeah,
get more money
perhaps
from
I
them.
can see that happening, but that's most likely. If Mark Davis does anything different, that would really, really surprise me. So we'll see where Bill Belichick goes. We'll see where he lands. Vrabel just got let go as well. I mean, there's like 7 coaching vacancies right now. So it's going to be a very interesting NFL offseason from personnel standpoint from coaches.
And I heard Pierce is interviewing in Tennessee or somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
So that, and you know what? If I'm him and I'm talking to him, I've been around a long time, so is he, as an assistant. If you get an offer, frickin' take it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And then if that happens, Mark Davis is going to, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him. But again, we're going to have to wait and see how this goes.
Actually, I think it would make it easier.
You think?
Yeah. So if Pierce takes an offer,
yeah,
that whole thing I just talked about with all the players, that's not that's not Mark Davis's problem anymore. He left.
True.
So I can bring in Harbaugh because he's who I believe.
Well, it ain't going to be John Gruden because he's got that lawsuit going. I'm sure if Mark Davis had it his way, he'd want John Gruden to come back. It's not going to be Vrabel, who was just let go.
Gruden would be.
It's not going to be Pete Carroll, even though the whole Pete Carroll thing was a little bit of a surprise to me. Bill Belichick, not a surprise at all. They've been terrible the last several years. But Pete Carroll was a little bit of a surprise to me, but I guess he's still going to be working within the organization. But that one surprised me a little bit. Pete Carroll's getting up there in age.
It's not a easy job.
No.
It's not. You got to travel. You have all these things on your mind. You have offense, defense, schemes, personnel, players' egos, coaches' egos. It's a big, and it's a long season. So, once you get older, like I am, I just turned 67. It's a hard process.
I thought you were 82. I was a little off.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
I look good for 82.
You do. All right, Mo. Let's talk about your bread and butter. We talked a little Raiders before we get to the NBA. Nice win by UNLV the other night, of course, against the New Mexico Lobos to Rick Pitino Jr., Richard Pitino. It's weird. Explain this to me, because when I look at UNLV and I look at the win against Creighton, they shot lights out. They looked like a top 25 team. It seems to me that when the Boone brothers are playing at a high level, they are really hard to beat. And the Boone brothers were phenomenal. They played great against New Mexico. New Mexico looked lethargic. I don't know why. They didn't look like the team that I watched here play in Vegas a month earlier. But when the Boone brothers play at that level, they played the same way against Creighton. The inside-outside game of that connection, they're really hard to beat. And this team is so inconsistent. you never know which team you're going to see. Why is that from a coaching standpoint?
Well, that's why I tell anybody I would never bet on college sports. That's the stupid bet because they're kids, they're children. They're 18, 19, 20, 21 years. They're kids. You can't depend on them. Hell, my kids, you've met my kids. They're, 35 and 37, respectable jobs, married. I trust them with anything now. But then when they were 18 or 19, I didn't trust them to clean their room. So why would I trust a kid to be able to play consistently at a high level in sports? It's just not. It's not a smart thing.
A lot of pros I don't trust either, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. But add the age factor in there.
Sure.
Their girlfriend's mad at them. Something happens. So, it's inconsistency at that level is because they're immature kids. And the coaches that are really, really successful, Bill Self and those guys are the ones that can get those kids to play and train and perform consistently and win because there's up and downs, man. Like you said, you're gonna look like a top 10 team. Then you're gonna look like you couldn't beat the Ladies of Angels team.
Is that why
you have to be consistent with your coaching and be able to instill confidence in them when they're down and be able to hold them accountable when they're up?
That's interesting. No, I agree with what you're saying. And 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. You're absolutely right. Is this why you had so many bad shooting nights in the Boston Garden because you and your wife were arguing? Was that what you're saying?
I had good teams in there.
You did.
But everything.
And in Madison Square Garden, like in some of the most famous arenas, you had your best games, right? Is that just by chance, or is that because maybe the juices are flowing and you may be a little bit more focused playing in Madison Square Garden or the Boston Garden? Seriously.
It's a little bit of that, and it's kind of the factors of the game. I know I think I had 21 and 12 in Madison Square Garden against Patrick Ewing.
I remember you won the game for them.
Yeah, one of my best games. But it was, I believe, I can't remember, one of the bigs was out with an injury, so I got more playing time.
Yeah.
And then succeeded. But, and I made free throws to win a game in Boston Garden.
When you're having a game like that, is Patrick Ewing saying anything to you? Is he quiet or is he mumbling something?
I'll tell you who was saying something to me in that game specifically was Bob Hill. Bob Hill was the coach of the Knicks.
He used to coach the Magic, right? Yeah.
And he was an assistant coach for me in Kansas for 2 years.
Oh, so he knew
my
you really
junior
well.
year. We knew each other. We did stuff in the summer, and he was yelling at me, "Why are you picking this time to play like this?"
That's so funny. That's so cool.
But that goes with what. One thing about the Twins here is, and you pointed out, inside outside,
right?
Because they go inside and they punish teams.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's such a good combination that most teams have forgot about now.
This is something that I will say about UNLV, that when both of those Boone players are out there on the floor together, it seems like, and they're both playing at a high level, they're really hard to beat. And I'm not saying they're going to win the Mountain West Conference. I'm not overreacting here, but they did beat Creighton, and they did beat a pretty good New Mexico team. Take it was at home. I do think they have – I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to say this now, and I guess I'm putting more pressure on Kevin. They should be a top 3 or top 4 team in the Mountain West if they're healthy. Now, I know they lost Jaden, and I know that's a tough loss, but he was not a huge impact guy like the Boone brothers are. If this team remains fairly healthy, they should be one of the top 4 teams in the league. And if they're not, then
and if Kevin can keep them, just like I just said, if he can keep them consistent in practice.
That's the problem.
And people don't understand. It's not just the game.
Yeah.
It's in the huddle. It's in practice. It's in video sessions. It's in weight training.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything has to be consistent.
And they play Utah State, by the way, a really good basketball team. They play Utah State at home Saturday afternoon. Another good basketball team. Unfortunately, I can't go to the game because I'm reffing some high school games on Saturday. But if you can beat New Mexico, which they did, and you could tie that in now to beating Utah State, 2 teams that are a lot of people thought top 4 in the league. Utah State's a better team. They're top 25 in the country. I think they're like 21st or 22nd in the country. They're coming off of a win off of Colorado State, who's also a top 25 team in the country. If you can find a way to beat Utah State, then okay, maybe we got something going here.
Yeah, but once again, that's not just because they beat a good team doesn't mean they can or will beat another good team. I mean,
I agree.
FSU can't, they beat Kansas last night.
Mm-hmm.
They can't, that doesn't mean they can go beat Purdue or somebody.
Understood. I agree.
And the same with all those other teams, and that goes back to the consistency.
I agree, but now New Mexico's 1-2 in the conference. We're very early. Utah State, if you can hand them their first loss, it would be impressive to go back-to-back and beat New Mexico and then Utah State. Again, I don't think that this team is capable of competing for a title. I don't think they're that good. But
I don't think they have the size.
I think they have the size, but I don't think they're good enough, and I don't think their guard play is good enough.
I mean, how big are their bigs, though? 6'8",
The Boone brothers are big, yeah. And
that's not 6'10", 6'11".
I get it, but their one brother can shoot the three. A lot of finesse, and then you have the other Boone brother underneath the basket that has some really good post moves. So you're forcing guys to come out and defend. You're forcing guys maybe to double team underneath the basket, and that's a recipe for some pretty good offense.
By size, you need to have 7-footers, 6'8"ers, so you can rebound consistently and defend consistently.
Well, that's why they lost to San Diego State, and that's why San Diego State's a better team. But again, we're talking about San Diego State. With that said, I have to brag and gloat a little bit more. The Celtics are 18-0 at home. Okay, 18-0 at home. Jason Tatum yesterday had 45 points. This team is playing at such a high level, and I think this is the best Boston Celtics team they've had maybe since the Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce days. This is a really good. I'm not going to compare them to the Larry Bird days. Let's not get carried away. But what I am saying is, in the last 20 years, I think, and you can make the argument when the Celtics were in the WNBA, when the Celtics were in the NBA Finals. That's all I hear about is the Aces. So I kind of like, when the Celtics were in the NBA Finals a few years ago against the Golden State Warriors, that was a really good team. This team is better. They're better. They got your boy from the Milwaukee Bucks. I know that makes you very sad. Drew Holiday's been phenomenal.
Porzingis gives them legit. And I'm going to tell you, man, people don't think it. It's true. You have to have size. Yep. That's why the Warriors are terrible. They don't have any size. Right. And Porzingis, even though he's an outside guy, he's 7 foot. He blocks shots and rebounds. And
this is something that is not talked about enough, and it's chemistry. And Golden State Warriors have had chemistry issues. Draymond Green's situation didn't help. The Celtics, it seems to me that these guys like playing with one another. It seems like to me they like their staff. They get along with one another. I see the bench, and that's to me, when I watch the Golden State Warrior bench, I don't see a lot of guys on the bench that are up there cheering.
You saw Steph Curry shaking his head in disappointment the other night when they lost by freaking 30 at home. You're right, though. Yeah, it has a lot to say.
The Celtics, Drew Holiday's a likable guy.
Oh, great
Porzingis has a fun personality. They joke around.
Porzingis loves to be around great players and good people. And he has his downfalls, and he's been hurt. But when you put him around good people and a good core,
and I don't think he's selfish.
No.
He's not that kind of player. And it just seems like the chemistry between like a Jaylen Brown and a Tatum, it's getting better every year. And I love the guys coming off the bench. They've got a good I have had the feeling all year, and maybe I'm a little biased, that the Celtics are the team to beat, that they're the best team in the NBA, and this is their year. And I know the Denver Nuggets are still the favorites. I'm telling you, I think the Celtics beat them in a 7-game series.
And part of that, and I agree, it's still early in the season, 1/3 of the way through. But I give credit to Brad Stevens in the front office because they did it the right way. They brought in the right people. Stars don't win playoff series. Role players do. Right. And instead of Smart, they have Holiday upgrade. Instead of starting Horford at the center, they start Porzingis and bring Horford off the bench. Those two moves right there solidified your team. And, they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I do think they're going to be hard to beat. Minnesota Timberwolves are a good basketball team. They're fun to watch. But coming down the stretch, the final 5 minutes of a game, they struggle, and I think the Celtics. I don't think I know. Celtics have so many go-to guys, and they have so many weapons. So that was
you know what you see in a good team like that has those kind of weapons. Like when you have Brown and Tatum, they kind of went back and forth. Right, I'm going to score 10. You're going to score 10. But I watched the other night, and in the fourth quarter, Porzingis was going off and scored 10 in a row. And those guys, Tatum and Brown, were just like cheering and laughing and going, yeah, you go. And he looked at him like, yeah, I can score too. And that kind of combination really, and we're not even talking about Holiday, who, in my opinion, is one of the best point guards in the league.
Yeah.
Both ends, scoring and distributing and defending.
Oh, I love him. And I loved him when he played for Milwaukee. He's one of the main reasons why they won a championship. Obviously, Giannis, but when I and Middleton. But when I look at Drew Holiday, he's a two-way player. He's a very underrated defensive player. He is capable of shooting the three, even though that's not his forte. He's a good mid-range player, and he's also capable of scoring in the paint. He's the kind of player that you want on any team, and I think that was the changing of the guard for me. Before they got Drew Holiday, I wasn't saying they're the team. They're still a good team, but they're not the team. I think they're better than Denver. I think they're better, certainly better than a lot of these West Coast teams like the Lakers. The East. Listen, 76ers are okay. Minnesota's a good team. Celtics are just flat out better. And the Indiana Pacers, I'm always going to be angry at them because they're the reason why I wasn't able to watch the Boston Celtics play in Vegas. But the Indiana Pacers are now getting back to planet Earth.
Yeah.
And
they're in the A spot.
Yeah, and I like Rick Carlisle. He's a really good coach.
Don't
But
give
they're
up
young.
on the Bucks yet.
I am. They're
Don't
not.
give up on them.
No, I am. I don't think Adrian Griffin.
They're playing horrible. They've had injuries, and they're still in second
Mo,
place.
I know, but Griffin's not a good coach. I'm sorry. He's a nice guy. I know you coached him
He's a good
professionally.
coach. He's a good
No,
coach.
I don't.
He's not a great coach. Yeah.
I think he's average. I just don't think he's a very good communicator. And I see a lot of these players. I mean, I was sitting right there, basically on their bench. They don't really listen to him. You know, they're just not very. I mean, guys like Damian Lillard. You know, a guy like Lillard he's been around a long time. You know, he plays by his own tune. Griffin is the wrong. Okay, let me put it to you this way. I'm not saying Griffin is a horrible coach, but I don't think he's the right coach for this team.
Might not be.
Yeah, I think he's the kind of guy to coach a young, up-and-coming team, like an Indiana Pacers type team. I think he would be better. I just don't think he's the right guy for this team. That's all.
Could be.
You know, so I don't know.
True.
Anything else? What are your thoughts on the Lakers? They haven't exactly been tearing it up lately either. What are your thoughts?
The Lakers are mesmerizing. They always have been. I mean, they were playing great when we watched them. You know, in the tournament here in Vegas, but LeBron and AD are getting older. AD is playing great right now, but we know his injury situations.
Right.
And they're asked to do too much too early in the season for them to do it for the next 5 months. And you know, their backups are not coming through. Like the Warriors, it's not Steph Curry, it's Wiggins, it's Klay Thompson. It's those guys that aren't performing. And like the Lakers, it's not LeBron and AD, it's the other guys that they brought together that, quite frankly, look like a good team on paper, but aren't performing. And the team to watch in the West that I believe can beat the Celtics is the Clippers. They're coming on. Zubac's a 6'11", serviceable big. They got Kawhi. They got George. Now they got Harden. Westbrook's playing his role.
Any team that Harden's on, I always speculate.
Yeah. But you got Kawhi, and you got
how healthy is Kawhi mentally, physically? Where's he at?
I mean, he's doing fine now.
I love Paul George.
But everybody we know, if somebody of any of those teams, you're talking about Boston or Denver or Minnesota or Milwaukee or Philly, if one of their main guys goes down, they're not going to win the championship. So you can say that about a lot of guys.
Yeah, that's true. But obviously, the Celtics are the team. They're the team to beat right now. Denver's been struggling a little bit. They're playing a little better, but they struggled a little bit.
They've been hurt too.
Yeah, they've been. There's a lot of injuries, and a lot of things can change from now to playoff time.
I mean, one of their main role guys got bit in the face by a dog, so he's not playing.
I remember. I heard. I heard about that story.
Yeah, so
that's a weird one.
Weird things happen too.
What about Ja Morant? I mean, here's a guy that's out for the rest of the year now, and he finally gets back, and he hits a game-winning shot, and everyone's feeling good out there in Memphis, and boom, just like that, you're out for the whole season. I mean, this is really a disappointment.
Yeah, it is for this season, but not for next season.
No.
So if I'm the ownership of that team or the coach that has a longer contract, oh man. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, we get a lottery pick, and then he's going to come back, and then Adams is going to come back, and then another star that went down. They're all going to be back next year. So hello.
I wanted to share this with you real quickly, Mo. As you know, I ref high school basketball, and I was reffing some games yesterday, and I had the coach from hell yesterday. I had the worst. One of the toughest calls to make sometimes when you're underneath the basket is because you can't see through a body when somebody gets pushed in the back. So you have to rely on your partner who has a better angle to see that. My partner didn't. He wasn't very experienced. Nice guy. So there were a couple missed calls in the back. This coach is yelling at me the entire first half. And I'm trying to be patient with him. And finally, I just had enough. There was a push in the back. We might have missed it. He gets up out of his chair and he starts screaming at me at the top of his lungs. So I go, okay. Psh. I say, sit down. That's enough. Sit down. And the team couldn't dribble the ball. They couldn't beat a press. And they lost by like 25, And
so those 3 calls you missed, big
yeah,
factor
yeah.
in
Of
that.
course it wasn't a factor. 10 seconds left to go in the game. It's a 25-point game. Their starting guard rolls his ankle. Now, I don't know whether he stepped on somebody's foot because it wasn't really my call. Again, I'm under the basket. After the game, he said, our best player just got hurt, and it's your fault. And I looked at him, and I go, Coach, you're 100% right. I mean, anytime anybody sprains their ankle, it's always the official's fault. And I'll also take it a step further. The reason why you lost by 30 is because of us. Coach, you're 100% right. And he looks at me, and there's really nothing he can say because he knows I'm being sarcastic, and he walks away. But
No,
I'm like,
you sarcastic? Really?
I'm like, what a buffoon. This guy was such a jerk. I probably should have thrown him out.
Well, that's part of the reason that basketball in our country is kind of going down. And I'm not pointing him out. I don't know who that is.
Oh, no, you can point him out.
There's the coaching at the lower levels in our country
Terrible.
is not very good.
Terrible.
I'm not going to tell you, was it a varsity game?
JV.
Okay, so that guy is probably not making any money.
None.
And if somebody's making $500 a month, so so that you get what you pay for. In Europe, in Italy, and those junior coaches are actually getting paid and actually training players. And then these players get into the AAU circuit, and you've reffed AAU games. Some tennis shoe guy could be coaching, or some parent that gave money to the team, and they don't know about basketball, so that's part of that. But it was actually, as a former coach, it was your fault.
I tell you, man, it's as frustrating as it is sometimes to debate these MAGAs. It's almost as frustrating dealing with really idiot coaches.
Or parents, right?
It really is. Yeah, the parents have actually been okay. Actually, I haven't had any
That's
issues
good.
there at the high school. At the high school level,
Yeah.
AAU is different, but and most of the coaches have been really good. Also, I don't mind. If a coach has a problem with a call, I'll talk to him all day. But there's some calls where I'll look at the coach. I'm 100% on that one. I got that one right. And then other times you'll be like, okay, you might be right on that one. We might have missed that one. But
I told you that, and that's what when I was coaching. Don't make up a freaking excuse.
Yeah.
Don't say you saw it when you didn't. But if we're talking and you say I might have missed that one, that's the end of the conversation. I have nothing else to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're gonna do everything we can not to miss calls, but sometimes
that's like my bad. Yeah, it is your bad.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, thank you for not missing pushing the limits, Mr. Paul Mokeski. I appreciate that. And what do you got going on this weekend?
Just chilling, I think.
Nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if I might go to the UNLV game. Not sure, but
Saturday
we got
afternoon,
all
right.
football, right? My Packers are back in it.
Yep.
Chiefs are struggling, but they got a home game against Miami.
We got to have a little party at the Mokeski house. That's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We
I
need a
think
little.
I think it's Super Bowl maybe.
All right, keep me in touch with that. All right, Mr. Paul Mokeski, thank you for being here as always. Appreciate it.
If he doesn't come, you can't.
Fair enough. All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks to Paul for coming on, and everybody, thanks for Numchuck for getting after it with one of my callers. That was also very. That was the highlight for me for today.
That's a wingman right there, baby.
Yes, we'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.